Hey, what's up, guys? It's Reed Young, aka Shuda here. I'm going to go over this 100 no limit zoom hand, where if you guys don't know what that means, it's the buy-in for the game is $100, and zoom is a format of poker where you get a hand every single time that you folded, and you rotate tables. So you go from table to table very quickly, and you always have a hand to play. So it's a very fast-paced game, and typically you don't really have that great of an idea of who you're playing against because everyone goes from table to table so quickly that you don't really have enough time to get reads in a lot of cases. So without further ado, we're going to the rest of the hand. Hero is under the gun 1 here, and we're at a 6-handed table. The under the gun player raises to 250 or 2.5 big blinds, as you can see it's written in the hand history. And Hero decides to re-raise to 9 big blinds. I think the sizing is fine, maybe a bit large. Also, re-raising with a hand like Ace Queen might not play that well, because if the under the gun player, when he's only 100 big blinds effective with us, is going to continue, he's probably not going to be calling hands like Ace Jack, and that's the next worst hand. So I'm not really sure what he's hoping for here. I think you can definitely play it more profitably to call, and it's also nice to have some stronger hands in your calling range for when you do face continuation bets on ace and queen high boards. So you can have a pretty strong hand, and if someone's going to squeeze re-raise both of you after the under the gun player calls and raises, and we call with ace queen, we can have some pretty strong hands to fight back with, as long as we're not re-raising every single one of them. So I think there's a lot of good reasons for calling, and re-raising, while it's probably going to make you money in the long run, I don't think it'll be as much money as you would make by calling. So you probably don't want to do either all of the time, but I would be calling most of the time. So with that said, we've decided to re-raise. I think it's fine. Not the best play. The under the gun player calls us, and I think here we're going to be looking at a range of some ace kings, some middle pairs and better, and maybe ace queen and maybe ace jack suited. So on this flop, we get check 2, which I think he would do with most of his range, and we bet about half pot. I guess we do bet half pot, and or a little over, and he raises us extremely small, and the poster is asking what to do. So I think the first problem here, and maybe this isn't the most exciting answer, is that you've continuation bet a hand with which you don't know how to continue when you're facing a raise. It's a hand that's very strong relative to many of the hands that we would be re-raising pre-flop in this instance. But that said, his raising range, if he only has the hands that I named pre-flop, his raising range should be annihilating us. So he's either bluffing here with ace king, or he is turning a hand like 9s into a bluff and check raising, which I don't think that many players are capable of doing. So if he's not bluffing with ace king because he would have 4-bet at pre-flop or just check folded it on the flop, so there's a lot fewer combinations of ace king you could have, then that really only leaves like jacks and then kings and aces that he slow played pre-flop. And so I see why the hero is like, oh man, I'm going to be in trouble. I think the raise is so small and you're getting such good odds that you should at least call the flop, and then you could call a shove on any turn club because you'd just be priced in at that point, or any turn ace or queen, you should be doing well enough against his range to call it off. So we have odds to call on the flop, but I don't think it's the best situation to be in, obviously. We expect to be behind most of the time, and we're just relying on our good pot odds now that we've bet and we're facing such a small raise. So I just don't see that many people bluffing here, but more importantly, as part of your game plan, this isn't really like the best board in the world to continuation bet, so you also want to have some good hands to check back. And I think this is a great hand. Hands that you're not really worried about many turn cards. Even a king doesn't change that much, just because we wouldn't expect him to have many ace kings or many like king queens or king jacks 100 big blinds effective. And since we re-raise so large pre-flop, I think a lot of those end up folding. So we're not really worried about any turn card. And facing a bet on the turn, I think we'd be calling pretty happily, and then making a decision on the river, most of the time calling a bet, because we could see some semi-bluffs and potentially a worse hand value betting us. So I think the check back on the flop would be standard for a bunch of reasons, but the most important part of it is that you avoid situations like this. So even with a hand like kings, you could, against a lot of players who have a tighter range preflop, just check it back for pot control or to induce bluffs on the turn and river, while also protecting your range. When you do have something like, say we randomly tried to re-raise with like Jack 10 of hearts here as a bluff, now all of a sudden when we check that back, our opponent doesn't know if he can just bet twice with his entire range and get us to fold the weaker portions of our range. Let's say we had a hand like tens, it would make us much more difficult to play against since we have a balanced range. So I think this hand is more about paying the price of not really thinking all of your all of the possible situations through, instead of what to do once we've gotten ourselves into this spot, by making a series of small mistakes on the way to it. So if you guys like this video, share it with a poker buddy. And I have a gameplay video that I've linked in an annotation that you guys can check out. And if we get that one to 40 likes, I'm going to post another one. So I would appreciate you guys sharing that. And if we get up to 40, you guys will get another one. Alright, take care guys.